Gary, can I just check that we have now got everybody in from the waiting room?
Yes, we have, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for attending this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Before we start, I do need to read out the following announcement. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or for other use by such third parties. Please could I also remind members of the public who have registered to speak that they will be admitted to the meeting at the appropriate time, and that please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I may need to adjourn the meeting. Now, we have got everybody present who was in the waiting room, and I will, before we go any further, just ask those who are present, if you could identify yourselves. If I go around the screen that I've got with people on it, I've got one that is Jane Battersby.
Muted, Jane, muted.
Yeah, okay, I'm done now. That is me, but I'm actually here for a friend who lives opposite the stag called Christine Dweet. She is she's using my iPad because she doesn't have the facilities otherwise. Okay.
So sorry, could you just repeat the surname, Christine?
Christine Dweet, D-U-Y-T. Address is Tanglewood.
Thank you much. And you're the one who will be speaking. You've registered to speak.
Have I? Okay.
No, yes. I'm just asking the question.
You on the list, Chairman.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Not done this before, sorry.
Right. And if you could I just remind everybody that when you have finished speaking to remute yourself. Councillor Kesker.
Yes, good morning, Chairman. Councillor Paul Kesker, in this case, speaking as a resident of Ongar.
Thank you. David Barker.
Hello, yes, I'm here to assist the landlord and owners of the Stag Pub.
Thank you. Dean Allen.
My name is Dean Allen. I'm a resident of Hunters Chase. I'm the first property as you turn into Hunters Chase, and I own 3 properties on the development as well.
And you have registered to speak.
I'm just going to listen. I might put in towards the end, but at the minute I'd just like to, I think my objections have been made clear with the letter that I did put in, but I'll just be quite interested to see everyone else's thoughts on it. Thank you, Councillor.
Right. Thank you. Can I just clarify with our legal officer or Democratic Services, what is the position of any residents wishing to speak who have not actually pre-registered?
I think Mr. Allen, you wrote in, didn't you? You submitted a representation.
I did. I sent in a letter and followed it up with an email.
Yeah.
Obviously, the main concerns as residents are is Hunters Chase is a completely private road.
We don't need to know that at this point.
Okay, so I apologise.
But that's fine. We're just checking that you have sent in a representation because that allows you to be at this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lamprill, obviously you're the applicant for the Stag, but if you could just introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning, Chairman. Yes, my name's Henry Lamprell. I'm one of the owners of the Stag. So yeah, I'll be listening in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Catherine Garner.
Hello, yes, I'm Catherine Garner. I live at number 1 Hunters Chase. I'm representing my husband as well, who's being called away this morning. And yes, I've written in.
Fine.
And
yeah,
you're on the list, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Shane Randall.
Hi, I'm on Hunters Chase, number 10, representing both my wife and my son. Yeah,
that's fine.
That's fine, thank you. I've got Michael's iPad.
Hello.
Yeah, could you just introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Michael Tingey, tenant of the Stag.
Thank you very much. And Erkan Gulam.
Hi, I have two applications, one for 112 High Street and one for 114 High Street in Epping.
Thank you very much. That's fine. Kelsey Dott, I believe you're the police department. Yes.
Yes, hi, yeah, my name's Kelsey Dott. I'm Essex Police Licensing Officer, and I'm just here to observe the hearing today.
Thank you very much. I've got one that says Pat Bow. Pat Bow, can you identify yourself, please?
I think this is Mrs. Bolden. So she's registered for the stag as an objector.
Yeah, that's.
And I'll
my
rename
wife.
her.
Right, thank you.
All right. Did you respond then, Pat Bow?
And I've got.
Sorry, Chairman, I thought Pat,
No.
oh, there we go, Pat Bow. I thought they'd responded to your request then. But...
No, I've just renamed, so that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
And Tracy's iPhone.
Chairman, I think Tracy and Tracy's iPhone is the same person because the one that's marked as Tracy is struggling to connect to their audio.
Yes.
I suspect it's probably Tracy Dockerill, who's a supporter for the stag.
Right, thank
Councillor, Tracy's with me. Yeah.
No. Ah, sorry. So Tracy is with. You're sitting with Michael Tingy.
And connection.
Yeah. So you're going to work from the same appliance. Yes. No.
Logging.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So on that basis, can we take out the Tracy's iPhone and the Tracy audio connection?
Yeah, she's doing that
And
now.
I'm doing that now.
Right, thank you very much. Right, I think that's covered everybody. In case anybody has been missed, could you perhaps just let me know? No? Right, if we go back to the agenda then, item 2 is apologies for absence. I don't believe we have any.
No, none, Chairman.
And any declarations of interest?
None. Oh, sorry.
No, thank you very much. Now, the procedures for this meeting are set out on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda. I will just run through the main points. The procedure is that the lead officer will outline the matter in hand. And if I can introduce the lead officer with us this morning, it's David King, who is our licensing manager. He has had to step in at the last minute, I know, but he will have read up all of the paperwork around this and be familiar with it. Then the applicant or their agent or representative will be able to present their case and be able to be asked questions by members of the panel and by any objectors making representation who are present. Objectors will then have the opportunity to make their representations and will also be asked questions by members of the panel and by the applicant or their representative if they have any questions. The objectors will be able to make a final statement, but without introducing any new matters into the statement. And finally, the applicant has the right to make a final statement as well, but again, without introducing any new material. The committee sitting this morning is myself, Councillor Mary Sartin, as chairman. We have 3 other councillors present who are members of this subcommittee, but only 2 will be sitting on the first, 2 others, myself and Councillor Ken Williamson and Councillor Louise Mead, sitting to hear the first 2 applications. for the Epping applications. And we have with us, as I said, David King, who is the licensing manager, Graham Oakley, who is our legal officer, who will be there to give us any legal advice. And we have Democratic Services officers present as well, Vivian Messenger and Gary Woodhall. The procedure will be, as I said, about going through the actual hearing, but having heard all the various presentations and representations, the all except ourselves as members of the panel with our legal officer and a Democratic Service officer will stay in the meeting. Everybody else will be put into the waiting room while we consider the applications. So if I can now move on to the first application, which is on page 15 of the agenda, to consider the application for a new premises license for Kebabbery, 112 High Street, Epping. And if I can hand it over to David King to present this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as you mentioned, so an application has been made for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of the Kebabbery at 112 High Street, Epping. The applicant has sought the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises Monday to Sunday between midday and 1 AM, and the provision of late night refreshment on Monday to Sunday between 11 PM until 1 AM. The proposed opening hours are Monday to Sunday between midday and 1 AM. The operating schedule included in the application sets out the conditions which will be attached to the licence if the application were to be granted. The responsible authorities have all received a copy of the application. It was also advertised at the premises and in a local newspaper. A copy of the blue notice and the newspaper advert are attached to this report for your information. All residences and businesses within a 150-metre radius of the premises were directly consulted. During the consultation period, the authority has received a total of 3 representations of objection. 1 from Epping Town Council, 1 from a local business, and 1 from a local resident. The representations are attached to the report and they relate to the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. A response from Essex Police with recommendations has been received and agreed by the applicant. Again, these conditions are attached to the report. The subcommittee is respectfully asked to determine the application, having regard to the content of this report and the representations, any additional information obtained during the hearing, the Council's statement of licensing policy, guidance issued by the Secretary of State, and the steps appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. So if I can now go on to the applicant, Mr. Gluman, who, if you have the opportunity to put forward your reasons for this application.
Yeah, so the reasons for the applications are we had a license previously, which was under a different business name, and therefore the council had to revoke that one. It had to be cancelled. And so this is just another application for pretty much the same license with the correct names on there. The change on there is just the additional sale of alcohol. As I said on the application, as it says, this is for off sale only, so no alcohol to be consumed on premises. And as I spoke with the licensing officer for the police, I did make it clear that any sale of alcohol would have to be made with purchase of food from the premises as well. So people can't come in just for alcohol.
Thank you very much. If I can now go to Councillor Heather or Councillor Mead, if you've got any questions of the applicant.
Not at this point, Chair, thank you.
Councillor Mead.
Thank you. I just wondered, when you say you've had a previous licence, how long have you had that for?
We had that for about 6 years. No issues with the late hours for food with that. Again, the additional change is just the alcohol on top of this. The reason that was cancelled because we had a change of company name. We forgot to notify and make the changes on the license. And when it was time, when I decided to add the alcohol onto the license, I was made aware that it can't be done because it was in a different business name and we hadn't made the changes. So that license had to be cancelled. Therefore, that's why I'm applying for a new license.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask when that license was revoked?
I can just look it up if you give me a couple minutes,
Well,
couple
I mean,
seconds.
are we talking a year, months, or weeks?
Oh yeah, about 4 months maybe.
Right, thank you.
And sorry.
No, the previous license was only for late night refreshment. It wasn't covering alcohol at all.
That's right, yeah.
Sorry, can someone tell me what to do with this license? I don't understand what
Sorry,
to do with the...
we're dealing with the first item on the agenda, which is the kebabery in Epping.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So sorry, yes. So your previous license was just for late night refreshment. At that time, you had no alcohol and you have never had an alcohol license for this premises.
That's right, no alcohol, yeah.
So that's the new addition to the license. But
Yeah.
the hours of opening are the same as they were previously under with your late night refreshments license.
The previous license, the hours of opening, they were Sunday to Thursday, with the extra hours, so till 12 to midnight. And Friday, Saturday, it was till 1 a.m. On this license, I've applied to have it to 1 a.m. for the 7 days. Not because we're going to be open that time for that period, but just so I have the flexibility. Because right now we're shutting around about 10 in the evenings, 10:30, because not a lot of people out due to COVID and things like that. So going forward, I'd like to have the extra couple hours.
Thank you for that. Now we have present Judith Samuel. Just find you on my screen. Or do we not have Miss?
No, I don't think we have anyone here objecting to it because Epping Town Council aren't here present either.
Right, okay, thank you very much. In that case, is there anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Gula, before we go to discuss this application?
Yeah, that's it pretty much. As I said, alcohol will not be served on its own. It will have to be purchased alongside a food order. And if it needs be for the opening hours for the premises, I don't mind going back to the during the week, so Sunday to Thursday to midnight, and keeping the weekends to 1 a.m. if that's going to be more acceptable for you. But I just wanted to apply for that just so I have the flexibility.
Thank you very much for that. Can I just add, put in one final question? I see reference to the fact you've got a couple of tables and some chairs. Will there be any people actually eating and drinking on the premises?
So eating on the premises, we do have some customers eating, but when they eat in, we don't have any plates or metal cutlery, anything like that. It's just takeaway boxes with plastic forks. And we don't have any glasses or anything like that. All drinks are canned drinks. And again, if customers do want to consume the alcohol on premises, I'm going to refuse them and say, no, it has to be off premise.
Yeah, because the license that you're applying for is purely off license.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you very much. Just I wanted to clarify that before we go to discuss the application. Oh, Councillor Heather.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was just with reference to page 25, where we're seasonal variations. You're asking 23rd of September, December to the 2nd of January. May I ask for an extra 2 hours? That's taking you till 3 o'clock in the morning?
That's right. Again, we have never, with the previous license, I had never applied for any seasonal variations before as well, just because we didn't need it at the time. You know, the clubs shut around about the time we were shutting anyway. But as I said, the only reason I've added those of extra hours and the actual variation is just so I have the option to, if I decide I want to. Obviously, that all depends on what time the bars in the area shut. There's only like 1 or 2 bars anyway, so it all depends on what time they shut. And again, it's not a necessity for me. I just wanted to have it there just in case I do decide I want to use it.
Thank you.
Just clarification on that. You're looking for every single day from the 23rd of December through to the 2nd of January for those extra 2 hours?
Not for every single day, no.
Because that's how it's presented on the form.
It's been presented like that, again, because normally right now, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been shut in, we're shut Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Business is a bit bad at the moment. It's a bit quiet just after Christmas and New Year anyway. But as I said, I wanted to have the option there. If I wanted to, any day between the 23rd and the 2nd of January, I would like to have that option. Again, it's not 100% that I will be doing that year in, year out. It's just if there is anything in the area, if it looks like it's going to be busy, if I'm possibly thinking of doing some advertisement for that as well, if I decide to open for the later hours.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think that's probably something that will form part of our discussion, but thank you. Vivian, you wanted to?
Yes, just to say that Councillor Mead has lost her internet connection, so she's no longer present at this meeting. So if your alternative backup panel member could step in, he will need to step in now for all 3 items.
Right. Councillor Williamson, are you happy with that? You've heard all the representations, you've heard what's been said. I should have said at the beginning that we do use this as a possibility of having 4 members present. We do have that option that the 4th person is able to be brought in if necessary. So if the applicant is happy with that as well.
Yeah, that's fine by me. Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much. Vivian, was there something else? No, your hand was still up. Thank you. Right, in that case, if I could ask the officers to put everybody into the waiting room apart from those hearing the application and our legal representative and Democratic Services Officer. Right. I think we have everybody back in that we would expect to have for this application. So thank you for your forbearance. Unfortunately, this does take rather a longer time than it does when we're doing this in person because of actually passing backwards and forwards bits of paper. But I do now have the decision, which I will read out to the those present, and also I think it'll be heard on the webcast. The Licensing Subcommittee meeting of the 1st of March 2022. This is the decision sheet for an application for a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003. The premises address is Kebabbery, 112 High Street, Epping, Essex. And we consider that the application satisfies the necessary requirements in order to be considered as it is on the prescribed form. It has been advertised and relevant notifications given. We are grateful to the parties for their representations to us this morning. We have taken these and the written material submitted to us into account. We have considered what is appropriate to promote the 4 licensing objectives and the relevant parts of the Council's licensing policy and the Home Office's guidance. During our deliberations, no issues of law or policy arose, and so the committee was not required to call on its advisory officers for advice. The committee noted all the submissions and representations, both oral and written, made in relation to this application. The decision of the subcommittee is that the application for a premises license in respect of Kebabbery, 112 High Street, Epping, be granted subject to Sunday to Thursday, the sale of alcohol off the premises shall be between 12 p.m. until 12 midnight. Friday and Saturday, the sale of alcohol off the premises shall be between 12 p.m. until 1 a.m. Sunday to Thursday, late night refreshment shall be between 12 p.m. until 12 midnight. Friday and Saturday, late night refreshment shall be between 12 p.m. until 1 a.m. The seasonal variation shall only apply to Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve from 12 p.m. until 1 a.m. There shall be no deliveries after the premises close on any day. Alcohol shall be sold ancillary to takeaway food orders and deliveries only. Also subject to this application, to this license, are the conditions as submitted by the applicant within their application and the conditions agreed with Essex Police as set out on pages 47 to 48 of the agenda, insofar as they add to or supersede the applicant's conditions, which we consider to be reasonable and proportionate and will not undermine the licensing objectives. We are also attaching the mandatory conditions contained in sections 19 to 21 of the Licensing Act 2003. So the application has been granted. The applicants and the objectors are reminded of their right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of date of the written notification of this decision and of the review mechanism under the Licensing Act 2003 because of any matters arising at the premises in the future in connection with any of the 4 licensing objectives. And this will be signed by myself as chairman of this committee. So, Mr. Goolham, you will receive a printed copy of this decision through the post within the next few days. And thank you very much for those who've taken part in this application this morning. So thank you. And we now move on to agenda item 7, which is an application for a premises license for 114 High Street, Epping. And it is to consider this new premises license under the Licensing Act 2003. So I will pass over to Mr. King again to give us a run through of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, this application is in respect of 114 High Street in Epping. It's the same applicant as before, and the applicant in summary has sought permission for the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises Monday to Sunday between 7 a.m. and midnight. The proposed opening hours are also Monday to Sunday between 7 a.m. and midnight. The operating schedule included in the application sets out the conditions which will be attached to the licence if the application were to be granted. The responsible authorities have all received a copy of the application. It has also been advertised at the premises and in the local newspaper. A copy of the blue notice and the newspaper advert are attached to the report. All residences and businesses within 150 metres radius of the premises were directly consulted. During the consultation period, the authority has received 2 representations of objection. One was from Epping Forest Town Council and the second was from a local resident. Representations are attached to the report and they relate to the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance objectives. A response from Essex Police with recommendations has been received and agreed by the applicant. These conditions again are attached to the report. The subcommittee is respectfully asked to determine the application having regard to the content of the report, any additional information obtained during the hearing, the council statement and licensing policy, guidance issued by the Secretary of State, and steps appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So again, if I can go over to Mr. Ghulam to give us your reasons behind this application. And in doing so, can you perhaps just explain what this business is going to be? Is it just an off license, or is it, are you asking for a license in connection with other goods being sold from the premises? Thank you.
Chairman, the page 69 does say that the off license is also including for a shop for selling cigarettes, soft drinks, house groceries, milk, bread, tea, coffee, sugar, biscuits, chocolates and sweets. So it's not solely an off license.
Apologies, thank you. Yes, I do now see
That's
that.
correct, yeah.
I had read it before, but with the amount of paperwork, these things do get this. So yes, Mr. Gulliver, as I say, if you can just give us your reasoning for this application.
So it's going to be a concept of like a mini market where we may try and introduce some fresh fruit and vegetables as well. Obviously, I don't know how that will sell on the high street, but it's going to be, we're going to try and do that. We're going to have, as I said, milk, bread, like some household items, toilet paper, those kind of things, alongside the soft drinks, alcohol, cigarettes, lottery. I'm going to try and apply for an oyster machine. I don't know. I've heard a few cases where oysters have been rejected due to being outside of London, but I'm going to try anyway because it'll be one of the closest businesses walking down from the high street down to the tube station.
Anything else you wish to add?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said there.
Anything else that you wish to add? I know that's a fairly short.
No, that's about it really. It will be more like an early morning open business. You know, people can come get soft drinks, biscuits, crisps, confectioneries, everything basically.
Thank you very much. So if I can go over to Councillor Williamson or Councillor Heather, any questions of the applicant? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. My only comment would be that the plan on page 82 is 3 stands for alcohol, and probably on the same sort of scale, 1 for the convenience store. So it seems to be heavily, much more alcohol than convenience store. I would have thought half and half would be more appropriate.
Mr. Gullam, have you got any response to that?
So the plan on there, obviously not all the shelves I've highlighted will have alcohol. Again, because we're in the stages of designing the interior at the moment, and because I don't have full access to the property, the lease is still ongoing with the solicitors. So I don't have full access to the property. Therefore, the interior design it's not 100% completed, finalized yet. That's just like a provisional. I'm going to try and keep alcohol on the shelves where I've highlighted. Again, it wouldn't be just solely alcohol. I'll have some more drinks alongside the alcohol as well.
So on a follow-up to that, would your expectation be that spirits would be the alcohol that would be behind your till area, and beers, wines on the more open shelves?
Yes, beers would have to be refrigerated. Wines will be on open shelves, but the heavy alcohols, liquors, spirits, whiskey, those kind of things would be behind the counter.
Thank you. Councillor Heather?
No, I'm fine at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
All right. I don't think there's anything else that I have highlighted.
I don't know if I need to say this, but again, it will be just off sales anyway. There's nowhere for alcohol to be consumed on the premise anyway, so.
Right, yes, and it is an off license that you have applied for, so
yeah.
That would be what we'd be looking at it as. Okay, well, I don't think if we haven't got anything else, and anything else you wish to add, Mr. Gullum?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. In that case, if we can go through the procedure again of removing all those present who are not part of the discussion into the waiting room.
They're also requesting that the webcast be suspended, Chairman.
Webcast restart, please.
The webcast has already been restarted.
Right, again, thank you for your patience, and as before, I will read out the decision sheet as is prescribed in law. This is the decision sheet for an application for a premises license heard by the subcommittee on the 1st of March 2022 under the Licensing Act 2003 for 114 High Street, Epping, Essex. And we consider that the application satisfies the necessary requirements in order to be considered as it is on the prescribed form. It has been advertised and relevant notifications given. We are grateful to the parties for their presentations to us this morning. We have taken these and the written materials submitted to us into account. We have considered what is appropriate to promote the 4 licensing objectives and the relevant parts of the Council's licensing policy and Home Office's guidance. During our deliberations, no issues of law or policy arose, and so the committee was not required to call on its advisory officers for advice. The committee noted all the submissions and representations, both oral and written, made in relation to this application. The decision of this subcommittee is that the application for a premises license in respect of 114 High Street, Epping, be granted subject to the conditions as submitted by the applicant within the application, and also the conditions agreed with Essex Police as set out on pages 88 and 89 of the agenda, insofar as they add to or supersede the applicant's conditions, which we consider are reasonable and proportionate and will not undermine the licensing objectives. We are also attaching the mandatory conditions contained in sections 19 to 21 of the Licensing Act 2003. The applicants and the objectors are reminded of their right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of the written notification of this decision and of the review mechanism under the Licensing Act 2003 because of any matters arising in the future. Because of any matters arising in the future at the premises in connection with any of the 4 licensing objectives. And this will be signed by myself as of this date. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Right, so now we move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is the application for a new premises license for the Stag Public House, Brentwood Road, Ongar. And I will hand over to Mr. King to present this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Stag Public House has historically operated as a pub. It was sold to the new owners towards the end of last year, but unfortunately due to an oversight, the licence was not transferred and subsequently lapsed. Therefore, as a result, the new owners have applied for the grant of a new premises licence. In summary, the applicant has sought permission for the following licensable activities: the provision of films Monday to Sunday between 10 AM and 11 PM, both on and off the premises; the provision of indoor sporting events Monday to Sunday between 10 AM and 11 PM; the provision of live music Monday to Sunday between 10 AM and 11 PM. Again, that's both on and off the premises. The provision of recorded music Monday to Sunday between 10 AM and 11 PM on and off the premises. The provision of anything of similar description Monday to Sunday between 10 AM and 11 PM on the premises. The sale of alcohol for consumption on the premises on Sunday through to Thursday between 10 AM until midnight, and Friday to Saturday between 10 AM until 1 AM. The applicant has also sought additional seasonal timings, which are detailed in the report. The responsible authorities have all received a copy of the application. It was also advertised in the premises and in a local newspaper. A copy of the notice and the newspaper advert are attached to this report. All residences and businesses within a 150-metre radius of the premises were individually consulted. During the consultation period, the authority has received 12 representations of objection from local residents and 18 representations of support from local residents, including a petition. The representations and the petition are attached to the report. The objections relate to the prevention of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. A response has also been received from Essex Police with recommendations, and this has been agreed by the applicant. These conditions are attached to this report. The subcommittee is respectfully asked to determine the application having regard to the content of this report, any additional information obtained during the hearing, the Council's statement of licensing policy, guidance issued by the Secretary of State, and steps appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman, can I just interject at that stage? Mr. King is covering for the officer who is unfortunately unwell today. I did have a brief conversation with her the other day, and she indicated to me that the application is in respect of the premises as shown on page 122 of the agenda, which includes indoors, the whole of the site owned by the applicant. And she indicated to me, which can be clarified by Mr. King, hopefully, that the applications for on and off the premises really only apply to on the premises, because the premises is the whole site. And so there's nothing off the site, off the premises that would be applied for.
Yes, I can confirm that, Chair. So it will include the beer garden, the external areas that are actually form part of that premises.
Thank you for that clarification. Can I just double check that we are not talking about any off sales of alcohol to be taken away from the premises?
No, that's correct, Chair.
Thank you very much, just for that clarification. Now, I think we've got 3 people present who are part of this application in one way or another. Can I just ask who is going to present the application from the applicant's side?
Hi, Chair. Just to cut in here, it's probably best that our tenant, Mick Tingey, would be answering the questions.
It's not so much asking the questions, it's you've got the opportunity to make a, it's more to make an initial statement in support of the application. So
I think it would be best if our tenant provides that statement.
Thank you very much. So if I can go to Mr. Tingey then to make a statement in support of your application.
What's happened is that we've reapplied for a premises license. at the time of application, we literally copied the existing license and transferred it to the new application. And therefore we are just, seeking to have our license reinstated.
And you're not, sorry, I shouldn't be asking, but there's nothing else you wish to add at this time as a statement in support of your application?
Chairman, I was asked to make a statement. If Mr. Tingey would be happy that I do so.
Yes, please.
Right, so just to clarify for everybody present, Councillor Kesker, although having the name Councillor Kesker on his screen, is speaking as a private resident of Ongar. So you are what you're saying is that you are speaking on behalf of the applicant. Is that correct?
I am, Chairman. Yes.
Right, thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Okay, if I could then say to the committee, as you are aware, this application is actually only before you because of an extraordinary breakdown in communications between McMullins, the previous owner, and the current owners, whereby the existing license, which had been in existence for many years, was allowed to lapse. Many of the conditions that are in licenses, and the committee is aware of this, date back to the time when licenses moved from the magistrates to local authorities, and licensees asked for a great deal of leeway in their operations, which no one had time to check, and therefore you'll be surprised how many pubs can actually open until 3 o'clock in the morning, because that was on the documents that went across to the local authorities. Not that the pub owners or operators wish to do that, but that is the circumstances. The Stag is a family pub. For people in the south of Ongar, it is their local pub. It has regained a reputation for food and has a large garden, very popular with families with young children. The tenant would like his hours of operating to be the same as other pubs in Ongar. The tenant is also happy to accept reductions on the timing of outdoor music, which he understands could be a problem to his neighbours. The panel is, of course, aware that should problems arise in the future, there can be a review of any licence which can be altered or revoked. Clearly, as has been stated in some of the objections, people who come to live next to a pub do not expect it to be a library. But nevertheless, there is no reason for the operation of the pub, the licensed premises, to cause a nuisance. So I would ask that the panel grant the licence with such restrictions that they think are reasonable to support the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for that. Members of the committee, any questions of the in response to the applicant's statement? Or statement for the application. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. My only comment, I think, is there an ability to have noise limiters on the speakers, certainly on the external? That my main concern in looking at this, I think everybody wants to see a good local pub back there. But just reading it through, my concern is the outdoor music, and is there a possibility of noise limitation? Thank you.
I'm not an expert on that, Chairman, but the panel can put their own requirements into any licence that they grant.
Thank you. Can I just go to Mr. Tingey and ask him about that, because obviously he's the word working on the premises.
Yes, I don't think the limiters would be an issue. At the moment, we do monitor. We use a sound monitor, a hand sound monitor. It's in some information that we sent in before.
For the tens.
And when we put in for the tens, and you know, like we constantly monitor the sound of the music going out, and we do adjust accordingly. There is the odd occasion, I will admit, that the volume can be a little high, and it does need to be corrected. But I think that's just human nature. But in regards to some kind of limiter, as long as it's not silent, would be okay.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, Councillor Williamson? Councillor Heather?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, this is a like-for-like replacement of the previous licence.
I believe that is the case, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, my understanding from looking at it, but I might have got it wrong, is that the late night refreshments part of the application is a new addition, but perhaps Mr. King, can you clarify that?
Madam, technically, although there's an application for it, you don't need a late night refreshment application for anything before 11 p.m. So although it's in the application, you technically don't need it.
That's correct, Chair. I was going to repeat, as Graham's mentioned. So up until 11 o'clock, they're fine.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, this is an application that has produced quite a number of objections.
Sorry, Madam, can I just interject? It was referred to previously about the applicant would be willing to reduce the hours for outdoor music. Is there a suggestion from the applicant as to what time would be acceptable to him? And does that also relate to the provision of films or just the live music outdoors and recorded music outdoors?
Obviously, Councillor Kesker, you won't be able to answer that one. Mr. Tingy, please.
Yes, we are prepared to review and look at the time that we would stop music externally. It's at the moment on our application, it's 11 o'clock. At the minute, I think we'd be happy to look at that at 10:30.
That's for outdoor music and films.
I'm of the opinion that live music outside up to 11 o'clock is not
an issue.
It's no permission is required for that kind of license.
Can I just ask Mr. King to clarify on that one?
Yeah, licensed premises is permitted to have live and recorded music up until 11 o'clock, as long as there's certain criteria they meet and they don't exceed a certain number.
And that applies for, although the whole area is the license application area, that applies indoors and outdoors.
Yes, because it's the whole area that we're looking at, Chair. So the beer garden there, it's all considered one part of the same premises.
Thank you. Can I just clarify on that one, that was the same situation with the previous license?
Yes, Madam. Live music, recorded music, facilities for making music, Sunday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2300 hours.
What was on the original license? Yeah.
Yes, it's my understanding, Madam, is that my understanding is that it is a simple repeat of the previous license.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Sorry, I'm just trying to work out who we have talking.
It's the tenant, Mr. Tingy.
Right. Not Mr. Tingy.
I think his connection may have frozen again.
I think we've just lost him. Yes.
Oh, no, he may be back.
Yeah. Sorry, you wish to add something, Mr. Tingy? No, I think he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. If we now, presumably that means that he's not able to hear either. Can I just ask on a legal side of things how this affects this hearing?
Madam, he's got a number of representatives. If they can take over and answer any questions or deal with any matters raised by objectors, otherwise, we'll try and get Mr. Tingy back as quickly as possible.
Okay, so on that basis then, if we can carry on and move on to those who've made representations. I do have a list of some names here. If I can go through them on the order in which I think I've got them written. We had on Mrs. Battersby's system, the objector was Christine Diet. Yeah.
It's Dweet, not Diet.
Dweet, right, sorry.
Dweet. Yes.
Yeah.
I used to work in the Stag and I've got absolutely no problem with the license. My problem is the live music, particularly on Sunday afternoons, and the noise is unbelievable, and the behaviour of the children in the garden who are obviously being not supervised by their parents who are drinking. It's the noise and the kids sitting on the back fence throwing things at cars coming up and down the Brentwood Road. The Stag will know I've had to phone them several times when I've seen really what I think is dangerous behaviour of those kids, and ask them to do something about it. The other thing is the noise. I live opposite the Stag, and the noise down the footpath to Longfields when people leave the pub when they're drunk late at night is really, really annoying. And the other thing is the noise from when they go inside the pub and they have the music on inside the pub. I can feel the throbbing of the noise, whatever you call it, in my floor. I live in a garage annex, and that's all the way across the road from the Stag. I can feel, I have to turn my television up really loud so I can still hear it, and put up with this, I can't think what the word is, the throbbing of the bass, etc., in under my feet as they're playing the music inside the Stag. So that's my objections.
Thank you very much. Councillors, have you got any questions of the objector?
No, I haven't.
No. Sorry, I was referring to councillors on the panel.
We've got to take the word councillor off of my screen there.
No. Councillor Heather, you? No, thank you very much. The applicant or agent speaking on behalf of the applicant. No questions. And
so quite weak. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Hello.
I think we have lost Mr. Tingey.
Hello.
Yes, hi Chair, just to cut in again, that will be a question for Tingey to answer, so I'm afraid I can't add anything to that.
Perhaps if Mr. Tingey was to turn his camera off, it might help his bandwidth.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yes, we've got you now.
We've come in the middle. What was the question at the end? What was the objection and how?
The objection was...
well, it was one of the...
Yeah, Madam, the objection was relating to noise in the pub garden, Sunday afternoons, children throwing things at cars and not being controlled by their parents in the garden, and throbbing of music within the complainant's property coming from the public house.
And what you've got the opportunity to do at this point is to ask any questions of that objector.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With regards to the noise of the pub and the outside area, is that like people talking, or is it music, or just generally pub atmosphere?
It's the music is far too loud. I would like you to have a cut-off so that when it reaches a certain level, it just cuts out. It's invasive. I can't hear the birds singing in the garden. People like to do their gardens, sit outside in their own premises on a Sunday afternoon, don't want to have to listen. However good I'm not saying your music's not good, But if you're not there, we don't want to have to hear it, basically. And it
okay, so,
it dominates
okay,
everything else.
We have we do follow we have had this before. We've had the environmental agency round, and we do follow their guidelines with regards to the limit and the number that we're allowed to have a music up to. And we don't exceed that at all.
Still too loud.
And it is a pub that's been there since 1836.
Yeah,
so
I think
all we
played
can
out
do is
garden that loud every single Sunday afternoon. I've worked in the pub. I know what the pub's like, and you know, it has changed since you've been running it, and the volume of noise is beyond anything it's ever been before.
I think you've had the opportunity to ask a question of the objector. You've had the response that she's come back with. We have talked earlier about noise limiters, so that's something that we can take away when we go to discuss this application.
Okay, thank you.
If I can move on now, to say I've got various names here. Catherine Garner.
Yes, thank you. So I'm surprised to hear that the license application is exactly the same as it was, although I acknowledge, as people have said, that sometimes premises have applications far beyond what they might ever have done. But so if it is the same, then that's interesting. I thought it was quite extensively different. What I have to say, we've lived here for 21 years, ever since we bought the house as new, and we're right next door to the pub where number one. And we have not been bothered. We knew we were moving next door to a pub when we first came, and we've not been bothered in 18 odd years of living here. I don't mind the hubbub of people having fun. I don't even mind the hubbub of children. But McMullen's never played loud music outside. The outside element is because of COVID. Now, we appreciate that the landlord was doing everything that he could in order to maintain business during the time of COVID, but that was the time when everything moved outside. And as the previous objector says, it is intolerable. You cannot sit in your garden or even work in your garden of a weekend. And over the summer, it was sometimes Saturday and Sunday afternoon. I made several recordings that because I found it so intolerable. And my understanding is, in a residential area this time, actually there are not just restrictions, but that live music should not be allowed to be played outdoors. So my objection is not about indoors, but happy for them to do whatever they want to do indoors. And of course it's not about serving alcohol and food, because we've lived next door to a pub for 20 years and that's appropriate. But the volume from both the music and the films, because the tent backs up onto the back of our garden, the volume from the films as well, I'm afraid, was just unacceptable. It's not about the hours, because actually mid-afternoon on a Saturday or Sunday, it is intolerable to have shouting, loud singing music. So it's not about the hours, and it's not even just about the volume, it's about the fact it's outdoors. So that's our objection. Is that fair?
Yeah, but I think it's perfectly reasonable to also add that we're not against the pub being a very successful pub with some great clientele.
And family, it was a family pub always. We took our 3 children to play on those, but actually we wouldn't now. I think the music is not family friendly at all. You'll find the families in other pubs round about, in the Woodman or other places where they can eat and play, but not have loud music.
Thank you very much for that. Councillors, any questions of Mrs. Garner? Can I just ask one question? Obviously, this has gone on for a period of time. Did you at any time contact Epping Forest District Council's environmental health officers to complain about or raise the question of the noise?
No, we contacted the pub several times because we wanted to be good neighbours. We do want to be good neighbours. We decided not to complain to the council, but to try and get the pub to reduce. And they did. Okay, they would turn it down occasionally, but it was still too loud. We do have a neighbour who we know did complain to Epping Forest District Council. We've got the opportunity now, because of the kind of issue with the licence, to say actually, no, that's too much.
It's interesting, if I can follow that through as well, to say that yes, a neighbour did lodge a complaint at a time when the pub was not licensed. So somehow or another, that complaint was
overlooked,
brushed under the carpet with a, oh, well, you know, you have to record it and tell us when they're out of hours. But nobody actually acknowledged that there was no license on the pub, which would have perhaps brought things to an end much faster.
Yeah, something that slipped through the net. Applicant got, or applicant's agents, or anybody speaking on behalf of the applicant?
I'm of the impression the license expired on December.
Sorry, you're breaking up again. Have we got any questions from, as I say, the applicant or the applicant's people speaking on behalf of the applicant to Mrs. Garner? No. Okay, if we can move on then to Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Chair. Seeing as the application for the licence is a like for like, my wife and I and my family within Hunters Chase, we're quite happy for that to go ahead. And I can also appreciate Catherine and Peter's comments regarding the outdoor music, as their property does back right onto theirs. And Catherine, Peter and I at number 1 and number 12 would be more affected by this music, along with our neighbours at number 2. My greatest concern is the use of Hunters Chase for parking. 2 weeks before COVID restrictions were lifted, we had to call an ambulance to my premises, to my property, which is number 12 at the front. If the cars and the vehicles had been parked in the same way that they had, that they were 2 weeks after, there is no way that the ambulance would have been able to get onto my driveway. And who knows what would have happened then. I've said it before, and I've mentioned it to Mike, the tenant at the Stag on a couple of occasions, and he has put out efforts to reduce the parking in Hunters Chase by putting road traffic cones there as well, which did stop it for a little while. I also appreciate the fact that he has not had a lot of trade over the last couple of years. But the biggest issue for me at the time was the parking. There was also parking along the main road, blocking the bus stop just outside the Stag, and obviously hindering the entrance into my own property and getting round to the entrance beyond the gates of Hunters Chase, which is a completely private road as well, which is owned by all 12 residents within Hunters Chase. It has got to the point where the management company that look after Hunters Chase has mentioned to me about putting parking restrictions on Hunters Chase for those vehicles that are not registered to the residents. Sorry, Lou? Yeah, and obviously if emergency vehicles do need that access, there is no chance of getting in, even if they need the emergency access to the pub itself.
Thank you for those comments. Councillors Williamson or Heather, any questions of Mr. Dean, of Mr. Allen, sorry.
Could I just reiterate?
Just one. You mentioned it's a private road, so presumably we could not put any parking restrictions through NEPP. Is that what you were stating?
Yeah, that's correct. If you look on the Essex Highways website, it says that Hunters Chase is a completely private road. We do have a couple of issues that we're dealing with ourselves with the management company, and as residents, we all pay a maintenance fee for this road to be maintained. When we all moved in, and I believe I was one of the first residents to move into Hunters Chase, along with my family at 11 and 8, we give access to the pub, and that's part of the covenant of when we move in. So we grant access to and from the Stag public house only. The Hunters Chase is not under any circumstances to be used for parking. It's, as I said before, it is a private road, and we just grant the access to it, and that road is maintained by us. There we do have photos of when the cars were parked quite recklessly, and they are not only parked really close, and obviously you would not get a fire engine in to Hunters Chase or even into the Stag if needed. We also got pictures of the vehicles parked right on the corners, which goes against the Highways Act as well, parking within a certain distance of a junction. And we want to understand exactly how busy the Brentwood Road can be. And when you've got cars parked there on the corners and cars parked blocking the access road in and blocking the bus stop, I believe that becomes a bit of a road traffic incident waiting to happen, to be honest. Like I said, we've lived here for 21 years now, and we knew that we were buying a house next door to a pub. But obviously recently with the lifting COVID restrictions and everyone being able to use the pub outside, and it's almost as if the Stag has become a victim of its own success, which is great for Mike as a tenant and Mr. Lamprell as the owners. It's a good thing for them, but some consideration for the neighbours wouldn't go amiss, in my opinion.
Sorry, thank you for those comments. Can I just ask on the question of it being a private road? I've got within my ward several roads that are private roads. Do you have notices up stating that it's a private road and that there is no public parking on it?
As you turn into Hunters Chase, I'm looking at it now outside my window. As you turn in, it says Hunters Chase, private road, and it has the cul-de-sac sign there. After speaking with it says no parking on there as well. But after speaking with the management company, they're of the same thought as I, as putting signs up on the lampposts, which we pay for and we maintain as well. Hunters Chase is a private road, and they do have instances on other sites that they manage where they've had to go along and they won't clamp a car or put tickets on a car, but they'll apply to the DVLA for the details, and they will fine the cars for parking there. And obviously, if it gets to the point where people do park there and there is an incident there, I had it with one gentleman. He said, well, I've got insurance. I don't know if he would be covered if an accident would happen on private land.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I know there is always issues around insurance and parking traffic incidents. If I could ask if the applicant or anyone speaking on behalf of the applicant has any questions of Mr. Allen,
please.
Yes.
Yeah. I really understand everything that's coming from Hunters Chase. And quite honestly, I do think that we try and oblige and we try to discuss most things that become an issue. I think I have a good rapport with Darren and speak quite openly.
Sorry, really at this time, it's have you got a question you wish to ask Mr. Allen?
Not really a question, it's more answering the things that were put out by himself, which are regarding the parking.
Yeah, I think this is a sort of thing that you can put into your final statement if you wish to do it at that stage.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Sorry, there is a procedure for this, and obviously quite a lot of people wish you to take part, so I'm trying to keep it to the procedure. If I can then go on to, I believe it's Mrs. Shane Randall. If I can ask you to make your statement.
Hiya, my name's Shane Randall, resident of Hunters Chase. I live a little bit further away from the pub, but what I just wanted to quickly run through, a lot of this is reiterating what's already been said. Firstly, I think everyone around the surrounding area wants the pub to work. We want it a viable business operation. We want it to work. But I also want to mention, I appreciate what the councillor said. It's a repeat of the previous licence. I think it's this gives us a great opportunity just to revisit the issues that we've spoken about, and maybe some of the experiences that we've experienced over the past year. Frankly, if we've had reassurances about the opening times, then I don't have an issue with that. But I'd like it on record that it's more through formality, or that we're just going through the motions for that. I think it's from the residents' perspective, it is the volume issue. I'm surprised we've got limiters in place. I'm surprised, obviously, at the volumes, if there isn't anything being broken at the time. I mean, crikey, I used to go to Amnesia in Ibiza, and where I'm sitting in my garden, it sounds like that. It's, you know, banging bass, boom, boom, boom. You know, I might as well get my glow sticks out. But we can hear it in our garden. So, you know, we've spoken to Catherine, other residents about it. And I think the tactic when it was all happening in the lovely summer that we had was that we wanted to deal with them directly with the pub. And I know Dean, Catherine's been talking to them. I remember we all sat outside the gates of Hunters Chase, and we thought that was the best approach. So I think what we're asking as residents is, we do need that consideration, Mike. We do need the music turned down. You know, it needs to be managed, and I think the behaviour of the patrons also need to be managed. I mean, I was taking my dog for a walk, and the kids Jane, the kids in there on top of people's shoulders, jumping up and down with their parents all singing. It's like something in Ibiza, I'm telling you that now. Dean's also mentioned the parking, the access. We had an Amazon delivery driver couldn't get through. You know, one of the conversations we're having, emergency access. We had an older chap who lived down the road. If we had, you know, he wouldn't have got his ambulance through if that was on a Saturday or a Sunday during the summer. So it is a big fear. So I think, you know, all I'm saying is, you know, fair enough, if you're going to grant the licensing, fine, but can we grant it with restrictions based around, you know, managing the access, managing the volumes, and making sure that there are, you know, be it hours, be it lower volumes, maybe, you know, than agreed volumes with Mike and the Stag, because, you know, our summer afternoons, weekends were it was chaotic, and God knows, you know, what Catherine and Dean were going through. It was bonkers. So, you know, I'm happy for it to grant, you know, for you to grant the licensing, but with some, you know, with our objections taken on board and some strict restrictions in place with the volumes and you know, regarding music and the operating times of those events.
Thank you very much. Councillor Williamson or Councillor Heather, any questions of Mr. Randall? No. And the applicants, any questions of Mr. Randall?
No, we're good, thank you.
We'll put it in our final statement, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I think Mrs. Bolton. I'll just check whether or not her name is still on the those present. As far as I'm aware, I have been to each of the people present who've made representations. Can you just indicate if I have missed anybody out?
Everyone's indicating, I think you've included everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will now move on to, is there any one objector who wishes to make a final statement on behalf of all the objectors? Because I think pretty much you're coming with the same message. If you feel that you've covered everything in what we've already said. Mrs. Garner?
Simply that although the license may be a like for like, this is a new scenario related to COVID. So COVID is what took everything outdoors. It was all indoors before. So simply that.
Thank you very much for that. And a final statement from the applicant or somebody speaking on their behalf.
Hello,
Hi.
sorry, did you repeat that, please?
Yes, a final statement from the applicant.
Well, just briefly going through most of the items given out by Hunters Chase and others. You know, we do appreciate their patience and we do appreciate the communication that we have. But the one thing that I need to sort of clarify is we don't ignore the music. We don't just take it for granted. We do monitor it and we do follow environmental guidelines to get those volume levels. We bought a machine so that we could monitor it and give people an honest answer. You know, regarding the parking, as stated, when it was brought to my attention, immediately it became an issue, especially regarding emergency services. You know, being an ex-fireman myself and a driver, I know how difficult those places can be. And that's when we got in the cones. And I won't say that we didn't put them out now and again, but we put them out as nearly every Saturday and Sunday to avoid that issue. But there's also one other issue that I would like Hunters Chase and residents to think about. If you go to the pub car park at any given time, there are quite a few cars that are parked there from residents, either family members or guests that are going to the houses and use the car park for their own convenience. If those cars weren't in there, then those cars on the road might not be there as well. So that's just the point I would like to bring up. Regarding the main road, I think that is again down to the local authorities to do something regarding the yellow lines that are on that area to make it safer for everybody. You know, during the summer, during the time that we've been allowed to operate during these COVID times has been very difficult. And at the end of the day, I can honestly say that we have had music, live music, and it would be once a month, externally, once a month on a Saturday and every other Sunday.
Till 8 p.m.
Until the music only lasts until 8 p.m. At that time, it is then shut off. So we go nowhere near allocated times, which are already in place. Some of the things that people are asking is legislation.
And also, when there's people in the garden and people are talking, there's always going to be that element of noise when there's patrons there enjoying themselves in the garden on Sunday afternoon.
And the lady that suggested about children standing on the fence and throwing items, I can see that happen. I saw it happen once. And then I would spend my time speaking to parents and tell them that we're not their babysitters, could they come and look after their kids? It happened once since I've been there. But we do have the signage in place.
And we do monitor the outside area when we're in trading in the summer months.
And quite honestly, I would just like to continue a nice relationship with my neighbours.
Yeah, the live music generally, like we said, of a weekend stops at the latest at 8 o'clock. There might be amplified music out there, but we are prepared to reduce the time that we play that. But again, it's never that loud. It's background music. It's not, let's all have a party music.
Okay, well, thank you very much for those comments. Can I just ask you one question? When you have outside activities, are any of the car parking spaces taken up by those spaces having to be used for tables or marquees or anything else?
No, the parking is totally separate to the garden.
Thank you very much.
At the car park in the garden.
Yeah, thank you. Right, have we got anything else, members of the committee, that want to raise before we go into private session? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. I note the comments from everybody, and I think the two words I've written down here are noise and parking. And I'd just like to ask the tenant or the landlord, whether they have mentioned here about live music stopping at 8 p.m. Would they put that as a condition of this license if that's what they're actually saying? And I think the monitoring needs to be seriously looked at.
We're always prepared to be flexible, yes.
Okay,
As
thank you
long
for those.
not to our death.
I think Mr. Oakley, did you want to come in?
Sorry, Chairman, I have looked at sort of other examples of noise limiters, and you may wish to consider it, and I just made it throw it out for comment by the applicant that the wording has been used in licenses previously. For the prevention of public nuisance, a noise limiter should be used to control the volume of live recorded music and sound so that it cannot be heard outside of the premises. And in this case, the premises would be the whole area, open and closed. Would the applicants comment on whether that would be acceptable to them?
You mean a restrictor?
Yeah, a limiter, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to deafen anyone. I just need to get the ambience for my customers. And that's all the background music does. It just gives an ambience background music.
Are we talking about live music only on the limiter? Because that's the only thing that I think there's an issue with, is the live music.
I don't think there's an issue, with background music. I think the issue is live music, which is normally one guitarist and a singer, or a pianist and a singer.
This is always outside, this live music.
Only from May until September.
August.
And it's indoors during the other months?
No, during the other months, it would just depend on trade generally, because during the winter months, sadly, we become a third of what we would normally be in the summer. So therefore, sometimes to get an ambience and get a little bit of business, we would put a live music, a guitarist inside, yes.
But it's ad hoc, it's not on a regular basis, and it's normally for Valentine's or Christmas
event,
Eve,
yeah.
like an event of some sort, but they're few and far, they're not as frequent as it is in the summer.
So you're saying that all your live music in the summer is outdoors?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, okay. Just so that we have a full picture. I can see that Mrs. Garner wishes to come in. I wouldn't normally do this. Is this something that you want to add?
Well, it's not just the live music, it's the ambience as described might have 30 people like Ibiza, as Shane said, shouting. I've got several recordings of happy birthday to ridiculous volume music and all the people shouting and joining in. It's the outdoors that make it, and the timing is irrelevant, because if you want to sit in your garden in the afternoon, you can't do that.
Okay, thank you for
It's
that.
not the lateness, it's the volume.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Is there anything else that officers wish to add before we go into private session?
Madam, on page 111 of the application, under the prevention of public nuisance, I know it's copied and pasted from the previous application or license. No music will be played in or transmitted to the outside drinking area. Doors and windows will remain closed during the performance of live recorded music and discos, except for the ingress and the egress of customers. And outside patio area, seating area will be closed at 2300 hours every day. The management staff will encourage customers to leave quietly. That seems to contradict the fact that it's being played specifically outdoors as well. It says music will be played won't be transmitted to the outside drinking area, but it seems that music is actually being played in the outside drinking area, which would counteract this condition. Perhaps they can comment on that.
We copied and pasted that first line, shouldn't be there. I do apologise.
Right, so you are stating that you will
in the in the licensing objectives, we copied and pasted over some information before we send it in, and it's got no music will be played or transmitted to the outside drinking area. That line is incorrect.
Right, I'd actually put a note beside that myself on my agenda. So you are saying that that line does not form part of your application?
Yes. And what I would also like to mention to everybody, and I'm sure everybody's seen it already, is that in the notes of the prevention, you know, legislation says that there could be live music between the hours of 8 and 11 p.m. on any premises. And that's legislation.
Mr. King, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, Chair, the legislation says live and recorded music. So any playing of recorded and live music between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. on any day on a premises authorised to sell alcohol for consumption on those premises is not licensable, provided that the audience does not exceed 500.
Thank you.
Right, I think we've probably reached the point where we've got nothing else to bring in on this application at this time. If when we do go into private session, there's anything that we do wish to clarify, we may well ask to reconvene the meeting as a whole. But at this time, if I could ask officers to put all those, apart from the people involved with the discussion, into the waiting room. Thank you.
On this occasion, Madam, can David King remain in the advice?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Sorry, on this occasion, can David King remain as an advisor? Because I think you might need him regards to some background advice about this playing the music and times.
Can I just clarify that that's acceptable to everybody? Yes. I've got a lot of people without pictures, so I can't really tell, but on that basis.
That's okay.
Okay, so thank you very much. So if I can, as to say, ask that all those people be removed to the waiting room who are not part of the discussion.
Hello? I can't hear anything.
Press the top.
Yeah,
it's off.
Right. We're just waiting for everybody to be brought back into the meeting.
Let me help you. Thank you.
Right, can I just check that everybody is back in who was in the waiting room?
Yes, Chairman.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman, sorry, can you not read out the second paragraph? It's the second box down in the decision sheet. It's wrong.
Right, yeah, I'm with you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Right, thank you for your patience. We have given this quite a lot of consideration, as you can imagine. I will now read out the document, as you've heard on the previous applications. This is the decision sheet of the licensing subcommittee for the 1st of March 2022 on an application for a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003 for the premises The Stag Public House, Brentwood Road, Ongar, Essex. We consider that the application satisfies the necessary requirements in order to be considered, as it is on the prescribed form, it has been advertised and relevant notifications given. We are grateful to the parties for their presentations to us this morning. We have taken these and the written material submitted to us into account. We have considered what is appropriate to promote the 4 licensing licensing objectives and the relevant parts of the Council's licensing policy and also the Home Office's guidance. During our deliberations, our advisory officers gave us the following advice. Conditions imposed must be appropriate, be capable of being enforceable, and must not undermine the licensing objectives. That each case must be determined on its own merits, and that the committee was entitled to find its own facts, and what weight should be given to the evidence before it, and reach its own conclusions. The committee, when finding facts, must apply the civil test of the balance of probabilities, while the committee was not itself a court. It had to apply the same test for evidence as the civil court. The decision of this subcommittee is that the application for a premises license in respect of the Stag Public House, Brentwood Road, Ongar, be granted for the provision of films on the premises only between 10 AM and 21:30, but otherwise as contained in the application. The provision of indoor sporting events as contained in the application. The provision of live music on the premises only and otherwise as contained in the application. The provision of recorded music on the premises only and otherwise as contained in the application. The provision of anything of a similar description as contained in the application. Late night refreshment as contained in the application. The sale of retail of alcohol as contained in the application. And seasonal time contained in the application. Opening times of the premises also as contained in the application. All of this subject to 1, the conditions as submitted by the applicant within their application, with the exception of the first 2 bullet points in the licensing objectives D on page 111 of the agenda. And 2, the conditions agreed with Essex Police set out on pages 172 to 175 of the agenda, insofar as they add to or supersede the applicant's conditions. And 3, for the prevention of public nuisance, a noise limiter should be used to control the volume of live recorded music and amplified sound so that it cannot be heard by noise-sensitive premises, which we consider are reasonable and proportionate and will not undermine the licensing objectives. We are also attaching the mandatory conditions obtained in section 19 to 21 of the Licensing Act 2003. The applicants and the objectors are reminded of their right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of the date of the written notification of this decision, and of the review mechanism under the Licensing Act 2003 because of any matters arising in the future at the premises in connection with any of the 4 licensing objectives, and this signed by myself as of the 1st of March 2022. And a written copy of this will be sent to the applicant. Can I just ask, does this also get sent to the objectors and representations?
I don't believe it is usual, madam, but
there will be a copy within the minutes of this meeting that will be available on the Epping Forest District Council website, so it can be seen at that time. Okay, so thank you all very much for your attendance for this meeting today. I don't believe we have any other business to consider, so I will. Sorry.
Can I just ask a question? When does the actual license start from now, the one that's been granted? When can we start trading?
I'll ask Mr. King that question.
It's from immediate effect.
Immediate effect. And when does it need to be renewed? Is it so? Does it start from today for a year, or is it?
No, it's the license, once it's granted, remains in force indefinitely. It will be subject to an annual fee, which we will write to each year. and you will
Okay.
have to pay that annual fee. If you don't pay that, then we will suspend the licence.
So that annual fee letter, where will that be sent? To the actual Stag pub itself?
We'll send it to the contact details on the application. So the details you provided as the applicant, then that's
that-
who we'll write to.
That's the actual the people that own the landlords.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do is we can obviously have a discussion with us after that once we've issued the licence and so on.
Okay.
And then if we need to change that over for correspondence purposes, we can do.
Lovely,
So,
thank
so
you.
Mr. King, we can start trading from 12 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank
Lovely.
you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you all very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
And as I say, I close the meeting at 12:56. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.